My name is Alice Harper. I wasn't erased in one moment. I was edited, slowly, politely, until I no longer appeared in the family photos. At first, it felt like an oversight, a missed call, a forgotten invitation, a name conveniently skipped in conversations. But then came the harder truths. My house listed under someone else's name, my birthday, rewritten, and one day a party hosted in a place I owned, without a seat for me. They didn't steal my home in the middle of the night. They tried to sell it over dessert. People think betrayal comes in shouts and slammed doors. But in my family, it came in softened smiles, subject lines labeled love, and a waiter whispering, "You're not listed under family, just a guest." That night, I didn't scream. I didn't make a scene. I made it legal. And if you've ever been the quiet one, the accommodating one, the one they thought would never fight back, stay with me, because this isn't just a story about justice. It's about what happens when the one they counted out walks back in. Not with rage, but with receipts. I stared at the text for a full minute before locking my phone and dropping it face down on the kitchen counter. The early spring air floated in through the sliding doors, scented faintly with citrus from the potted lemon tree outside. Everything in this house was calm. Every line, clean. Every drawer in order. It was the only space in my life untouched by them. Except now they wanted to drag me out of it. I glanced at my purse. The spare key to my villa was still clipped inside. My anchor in this mess, and something I never lend. I'd changed the locks after Thanksgiving. No one had a copy. That key, that silence, that space. It was mine. And yet here I was, being summoned. "Are you seriously thinking of going?" Jenna asked from across the counter, her espresso untouched. She was the only one who'd been here since December. The only one who knew why I left. Why I stayed gone. "It's Nathan's birthday," I said simply, as if that explained anything. "If I don't show up, they win the narrative." Jenna narrowed her eyes. "They already have the narrative. You not showing up doesn't make it worse. It makes it honest." I walked to the closet and slid aside hangers until I found the navy sheath dress. Structured shoulders, conservative hemline, not too flashy. The kind of thing that says, "I'm not here for cake. I'm here to be counted." "They'll think you came crawling back," Jenna called out. "No," I said, stepping into the bathroom. "They'll think I came to listen." But that wasn't true either. I wasn't coming to listen. I was coming to watch. The drive to the Harper estate didn't feel long, just sterile. The same stretch of suburban opulence. Manicured lawns, imported hedges, cars lined up like trophies. I'd grown up here. I'd memorized every sound this street made. It didn't feel like a memory. It felt like a movie I watched once and never wanted to revisit. The house loomed as it always had, modern and smug and white and chrome. Lights in every window, music floating out in curated playlists. People were already arriving, hugging, clinking glasses, marveling at how grown-up Nathan looked. I parked around the corner. I didn't want my license plate in the photos. I hadn't even stepped out when my phone buzzed again. Another message. This one older. From my mother's shared calendar account, which she'd never learned to disable. It was a draft. "Remind Daniel to ask Alice about the villa papers during dessert." I blinked. Drafts don't send unless someone saves them intentionally. And they certainly don't show up unless someone forgets to unsync a shared account. I read it again. "Ask Alice about the villa papers." During dessert, that wasn't a question. That was a setup. My fingers went cold. I didn't respond. I didn't call Jenna, I didn't turn around. I just sat there, hands on the steering wheel until my breath slowed back to neutral. So that was the plan. I stepped out of the car and walked toward the house like nothing had happened. One hand on my coat, one hand on my bag. I knew exactly what was in it. 2 sets of keys, a phone charger, a lipstick I never used, and copies of my villa's deed. Dated, notarized, and legally mine. Nathan's party was in full swing. champagne towers, hand-rolled sushi, a rented string quartet. The kind of excess you throw around when you're trying to impress your neighbors or distract your family. Probably both. I didn't bother entering through the front. I took the side path, the one with the stone lanterns and the ridiculous koi pond my mother insisted on maintaining despite hating fish. A valet stopped me halfway. "You're not listed under family," the valet says. "Just a guest." I smile anyway. "Makes sense." "Alice, tell everyone what you brought for Nathan," Mom said sweetly, loud enough to turn heads. I paused mid-step, the champagne flute trembling slightly in my hand. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard her. But the silence that followed, the way people turned their heads, phones angled discreetly. No, I'd heard exactly what she said. The garden was bathed in soft yellow lights strung across lattice arches. Violinists played something elegant and forgettable near the fountain. Marble tables gleamed under votive candles, and platters of foie gras passed from server to server like they were passing time. The Harper house, in all its curated glory, never missed a beat. Except me. My seat was at the far corner, next to the kitchen entrance, practically tucked behind a hedge. Not near Nathan, not near the family. Jenna wasn't invited, of course. She'd have laughed by now, maybe pulled me out by the wrist. I looked down at my dress, the navy one with sleeves, the one I wore to job interviews, the one I thought might give me armor. But now, under this soft lighting and hard stares, it just felt like a flag of surrender. "Alice?" Linda's voice lilted upward, inviting and insidious. "You did bring something, didn't you?" Nathan, seated near the fountain with Chloe glowing beside him, blinked. He looked confused, then uncomfortable. Chloe's hand tightened on his. She didn't meet my eyes. I put my glass down. "I didn't bring anything that wasn't already mine," I said, my voice even. A few polite laughs flickered, uncertain. Daniel stood up with exaggerated charm. "Come on, sweetheart. You barely used the place. It's just sitting there. Nathan and Chloe could build a future in that villa." I felt something inside me split clean down the center. "This is a joke," I said. Not loud, not soft. Just stunned. "You want me to hand over my house?" Linda tilted her head, her red lipstick perfectly set. "We're family, Alice. It's time you started acting like it." Someone coughed. Someone else hit record. "You told them I'd give it?" I asked, breath catching. "We told them you'd do what's right," she said. I stood there, skin prickling, eyes wide. I could feel the edge of the table behind me. My pulse pounded in my ears. "I'm not giving you the villa," I said. "It's mine." The music didn't stop. The laughter didn't die. But something in the air cracked. Thin, cold, electric. Linda raised her wine glass and smiled. "Ungrateful." The splash was immediate, crimson and cold down my face, my dress, the hollow of my throat. Gasps rippled like a delayed wave. No one moved. No one said a word. I stepped back instinctively, but the heel of my shoe caught on the edge of the paver and I stumbled, hitting the edge of the table before crashing to the ground. Silverware clattered. A few guests backed away. Some filmed, some pretended not to. Nathan bowed his head. Chloe looked toward the violinists, like maybe if she pretended hard enough, she could pretend she wasn't here. No one reached out a hand. I stood up slowly, wet, shaking, my throat tight with humiliation and restraint. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't say a single word. I walked toward the gate, one soaked step at a time, the wine clinging sticky to my skin, my pride trailing behind me in shreds. Shoes clicking like echoes across marble. Past the valet, past the lanterns, past the house that once called itself home. As I walk away, soaked and silent, I hear Mom whisper behind me. She'll come crawling back. She always does. "This is Jean from Miramar Realty. Just confirming the 10 a.m. showing tomorrow at your villa." The voice on the phone was cheerful, routine, oblivious. I sat motionless at the edge of my kitchen island, the mug of tea in my hand cooling rapidly. The sun outside was pale and cold, slipping through the glass like it didn't want to stay. My villa, usually quiet, had never felt so hollow. "Excuse me?" I asked slowly, just confirming the showing. 10 a.m. sharp. Will only be 15 minutes. The buyers are very eager. I spoke to Mr. Harper last week. I hung up. My fingers gripped the ceramic so tightly it cracked at the handle. I set it down carefully, breathed. The villa, my name, my home. I walked down the hallway to my study, flicked on the desk lamp, and opened the drawer where I kept the hard copy of my title deed. Still there. Alice Harper. No co-signers. No recent updates. But I remembered now. Daniel had taken my handbag last weekend. Said it looked just like Linda's. Smiled that forced, lazy smile he wore like a mask. I'd brushed it off. It had only been a minute. Maybe 2. Long enough. I powered up my laptop and pulled open the encrypted folder I rarely touched. A scan of the wire transfer I made in 2020. The final installment. $560,000 in full. No shared accounts. Just me. I'd even saved the email from Mom. Passive-aggressive as ever. "Thanks for covering the condo. Again. We'll make it up to you. One day." The tab I opened next hit like a slap. A listing. Jenna had texted a link seconds earlier. Harper Villa, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, family-owned, motivated seller, move-in ready. The photos were fresh. They'd staged the master bedroom differently. The books I'd carefully stacked on the nightstand were gone. There was a strange bowl of fruit on the dining table. And someone had touched my office. They weren't just planning to take it. They were already pretending it was theirs. I drove downtown in silence. No music. Just tires against asphalt and a sick, silent rhythm pulsing through my hands. Miles Davenport's office sat above a quiet row of businesses. Chiropractor, pet clinic, boutique law firm. He was tall, precise, and indifferent. Perfect. "You're still the only legal owner," he said, tapping the last line of the title record. "Your parents have no cosign rights. If they entered any contract, they did so fraudulently." I nodded once. "I have the wire record," I said. "Bank statement. Email trail. Do whatever it takes." He blinked. "You want to proceed with an injunction?" "And eviction," I said. "But I want it quiet. No press, no fuss." His lips pressed into something like a smile, though it never reached his eyes. "I'll draw up the orders. We'll serve them tomorrow." He handed me the first sheet, an authorization to proceed. My pen hovered just a second before signing. My handwriting looked calmer than I felt. The buzz in my pocket startled me. A message. From Mom. Subject, love. "Let's talk." I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I just passed the paper back to Miles and said, "Make it irreversible." "This isn't revenge," Miles said, sliding the envelope across the table. "It's asset protection." The light through his office windows was merciless. Every surface gleamed like it had been scrubbed with antiseptic. Cold glass, smooth metal, papers so crisp they looked like they could cut. I looked down at the document in front of me. It wasn't long. Just a summary of everything we had compiled. The 2020 transfer, full ownership under my name, the bank's written confirmation. He had added the forgotten detail. Owner reports unauthorized key duplication and possible fraudulent listing activity. At the bottom, request for eviction. My hands didn't shake. I pulled out my pen and signed. The gesture felt cleaner than I expected. No fireworks, no music. Just ink soaking into paper. Miles tapped the page once, then slid it into a folder. "I'll have the courier deliver this to their condo within the hour. Discreetly. It's filed with the county clerk already. Enforcement will come by end of week if they don't vacate." I nodded. My phone buzzed in my purse. I knew what it was before I pulled it out. The message from Mom, still unread. "Let's talk." Subject line, love. I stared at it, then deleted it. Not opened, not answered. Just gone. Back at my villa, the sun had softened. The way it filtered through the curtains reminded me of when I first moved in. Boxes everywhere, no furniture, a mattress on the floor. But it had been mine. All of it. Earned. Quiet. Sacred. I poured a glass of water and sat by the window. Miles had promised to notify me once the delivery was complete. It didn't take long. The video came from Jenna. One of the neighbors had caught it from across the street. Her daughter had filmed it for TikTok, apparently. The audio was muffled, but you didn't need it to feel the temperature in the scene. Daniel opened the door in a robe. The courier handed him the letter. White, unassuming. Legal. Linda appeared seconds later. Her hands tore it open. She read it once, then again, mouth moving faster, eyes widening. She screamed something I couldn't hear. Then she slammed the envelope against the side of the house and it fluttered to the lawn like a broken feather. Daniel tried to pick it up. She shoved him aside. In the corner of the video, you could see one of their neighbors watching from behind the blinds. Another clip came in, this time from Jenna again. Forwarded from Nathan, she texted. It was a screenshot of the extended family group chat. My cousins, aunts, distant relatives, everyone Linda and Daniel had spent years bragging to. The ones who believed I had moved away, who thought I was too busy to attend reunions, who asked Linda to send Alice their love. The Dropbox link I'd sent was still pinned at the top of the thread. Every folder was neatly labeled. Email trail, mortgage payment, title record, bank transfers, realtor listing screenshots. At the top, no rage, just receipts. The comments were already starting. Wait, she paid off their mortgage? And they tried to sell her place? Is this real? I didn't reply. I just closed the group chat. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to explain myself. ChatGPT John Noy. They erased you from the photos too, Chloe texted. But I found the cutouts. I stared at the image for a long time. My 10th birthday. The cake was pink with purple icing, shaped like a butterfly. I remember every detail, because it was the last birthday I ever had in that house. In the version Chloe sent, the cake sat untouched on the table. My parents stood behind it, smiling. Nathan, 6 years old then, clutched a balloon. But in the bottom left corner, where the arm of someone clearly used to be, there was an awkward blur, like someone had tried too hard to crop neatly. I see it now, Chloe wrote again. I should have seen it sooner. I didn't reply. Outside my villa, the trees barely moved, but online the world spun like a storm. Messages poured in, most from names I hadn't seen in years. Former neighbors, old schoolmates, cousins I barely remembered. I don't know what to say. I believe you. Sorry for being silent for so long. I read them all without answering. A Dropbox link had gone viral. Somehow passed from Jenna's circle into an influencer's feed. She had captioned it simply, "Some families don't deserve silence. They deserve exposure." The clip of Linda screaming, the envelope fluttering to the ground, the folder of receipts. None of it needed commentary. People filled in the blanks themselves. I scrolled through a post from the local residents association, reposted on Facebook, then Instagram, then TikTok. The villa listing had vanished from Miramar Realty. The agent deleted her LinkedIn for a day. Then came Linda's rebuttal video. Her voice hoarse, face streaked with staged tears. I'm a mother. I just want my children to be united. In the background, Daniel paced. His face, usually smug, looked lost. Nathan didn't appear, but his absence said enough. Chloe sent another message. This time, just a photo of the party's guest list. My name had been scratched out in red pen. Beneath it, someone had scrawled, "No seat." She added, "It wasn't an accident, was it?" Still, I said nothing. The world was starting to connect the dots faster than I ever could. Later that week, a headline quietly surfaced. Tech exec Nathan Harper pulled from PR event after family scandal sparks backlash. It was short, only a few paragraphs, but the message was clear. The tide was turning. That night, another message came in. This one from Aunt Marion. 73, once sharp, now softer with time. They always made you invisible, she wrote. You turned that into your weapon. I read that one twice. Then the doorbell rang. There was no return address, just a cream envelope. My name written in long, looping script I knew too well. Linda's handwriting. Inside, I could feel the weight of the paper pressing against the seal. I didn't open it. I just set it down beside the others and walked away. On my table, the linen swan napkin sat quietly. I hadn't unfolded it since the night they broke me. It still held its shape. Soft, ivory, a little wrinkled along the wings. I'd folded it with shaky hands that night, trying to stay composed while they laughed, toasted, whispered. It had soaked up red wine, now washed clean. But the memory clung to its creases like threadbare lace. I reached for it now, not to press it flat or toss it away, but just to hold it. Outside, the sun lit my living room in a way I didn't recognize. Not because it was new, but because I'd finally let myself see it. The curtains were different now. Pale green, almost translucent. The rugs gone, replaced with clean wood. Books back on the shelf, organized not by theme or color, but by how often I reread them. I had repotted the succulents. They looked healthier, like they'd decided to stay. In the kitchen, a white envelope still sat unopened. My name in looping cursive. Linda's handwriting, neat and rehearsed. I picked it up, weighed it in my hand. Then opened the bottom drawer of my desk and placed it inside, gently next to a stack of old receipts I no longer needed. Across the counter lay a second envelope, addressed to Women Rising. Inside, a check for $25,000. I'd written the memo slowly. In honor of starting over. I didn't add a return address. I didn't need them to know it came from me. That wasn't the point. That evening, Jenna came over, arms full of groceries, face flushed from laughing at some joke she'd told herself on the way. We didn't make anything fancy. Just pasta, wine, a small salad with too much feta. She lit a candle. I poured the water. There were no speeches, no deep talks. Just the clink of forks against ceramic and two women who had decided, somewhere along the way, to choose peace over spectacle. We laughed. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just honestly. At one point, she asked if I'd seen the newest message from Chloe. I said I hadn't. She didn't press. After dinner, I folded the napkin again. Not the same one from the party. This one was new, but my fingers knew the motions. The creases didn't resist. It took shape slowly. A swan again. Not stiff, but intact. When Jenna left, I stood by the window, watching her tail lights disappear down the driveway. Then I turned off the lights, one by one, until only the candle remained. I didn't rush to blow it out. I let the flame waver, and then, when the moment was ready, I leaned in. Gone. The room darkened, not in fear, but in stillness. I stepped barefoot onto the cool floor, walking past the napkin, the drawers, the silence that no longer stung. They thought they'd buried me, I whispered, but I wasn't dead. Just growing roots. I used to think that reclaiming justice had to be loud, a dramatic reversal, a comeback so fierce the whole world would take notice. But it turns out justice doesn't always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it walks in quietly, through signatures, receipts, timestamps, and airtight documentation. And when it does, there's nothing left to say. I don't remember the exact moment I decided to cut them off for good. Maybe it was the wine in my face and the silence that followed. Maybe it was when my mother smiled and told me I should gift back the villa, like it was some secondhand furniture. Or maybe it was when the valet said, "You're not listed under family." And for the first time, I nodded in agreement. The funny thing is, they thought I'd stay silent. They counted on me to keep the peace, to feel ashamed, to shrink. But they forgot that what I carried wasn't rage. It was clarity. I didn't scream. I documented. I didn't retaliate. I moved strategically. I didn't make a scene. I made it legal. When the footage of their eviction started making rounds in the neighborhood groups, I was steeping tea. When the Dropbox folder went viral hour by hour, I was finalizing a donation. And when my mother sent me a letter with the subject line, love, I read that single word. And that was enough. I folded the letter shut, placed it in a drawer. Not because I was scared, but because I didn't need apologies that arrived too late, too hollow. That night, Jenna sat across from me. Candlelight reflected in her eyes. She didn't ask questions. We ate in silence, the kind that no longer felt heavy. After dinner, I folded the napkin into a swan. Not like the one I had folded in panic that night. This one stood tall, wings curved with purpose, head slightly raised. Not loud, just certain. I placed it on the windowsill, let it sit there, and I smiled. I am no longer the daughter we don't mention. I'm Alice Harper, the legal owner of the villa, the sender of the eviction notice, the one who didn't scream but exposed everything. And I live on, without them. That to me is the ultimate victory. Not everyone abandoned stays lost. Some stay silent to strategize. Some endure long enough to strike when it matters. And when that moment comes, they don't need rage, just the truth. Justice isn't always a storm. Sometimes it's a quiet wind, strong enough to uproot even the deepest deception. When pushed to the edge, the calmest person may become the most dangerous, not out of revenge, but because they've learned exactly how to reclaim their name. Like roots growing underground, the truth needs no permission to rise. If you're still watching, thank you. Not for pity, not for outrage, but for understanding the kind of quiet this story holds. This wasn't a tale of revenge. It was about clarity, boundaries, proof. About how silence, when sharpened, can slice cleaner than any scream. They thought I'd stay quiet, that I'd feel ashamed, that I'd fold like I always had. But they forgot. I don't need their version of family to know my worth. I don't need applause to know I was right. And I don't need to be invited to stand. Maybe you've been there too. Edited out of the photo, talked over at the table, told to give for the sake of peace. If you've ever been erased and rebuilt yourself anyway, this story is yours too. Leave a comment, or just one word. Seen. Sometimes that's all it takes to say, I'm here. And I know. Like this video if you've ever drawn a line where they thought you never would. Share it with someone who's still finding the courage to say no without guilt. And subscribe, because this space isn't for spectacle. It's for survivors, for truth tellers, for people like you. To every person who's watched till the end, who's followed these stories, who's carried their own quiet battles and still shows up. Thank you. You are not weak for walking away. You are powerful for knowing when to stop handing out access to people who treat your life like a resource. I'm Alice Harper. I didn't raise my voice. I raised the bar. And they'll never call me just a guest again. My name is Charlotte Hayes. I used to believe that if you worked hard enough, someone would eventually notice. But in the end, it wasn't ambition that erased me. It was my sister. With a click, a list, and a smile she's been rehearsing since we were 12. They called it a scheduling mix-up. I called it what it was. Precision sabotage in a silk blouse. But what she didn't know? I kept the email. The logs. The lines of code she thought no one would trace. I didn't come back to beg. I came back with a flash drive and a witness. Before I show you how the room shifted, how the company she built on silence started listening for the first time, tell me where you're watching from. And share this if you've ever been quietly pushed aside, but came back prepared. The air inside the 32nd floor conference room smelled like cold steel and bergamot. Everything about Clearwell Analytics whispered control, from the immaculate glass table to the precisely poured lattes now making their way around the room. Except to me. Mine never came. I sat at the far end, spine straight, hands folded. Across the table, Madison moved like she belonged here, sweeping across the floor in her ink-black suit, high heels tapping a metronome of power. She scanned the candidates like a hawk sizing up its prey. Her gaze never touched me. She hadn't changed much. Her hair was shorter, slicked back, but the precision in her smile, the choreography of her cruelty, that was all the same. 3 years ago, my sister erased my name from a pitch deck, and no one asked where I went. Today, she stood before me as the lead on this hiring panel. Not even a flicker of recognition in her eyes. Not for the girl who once saved her from academic suspension. Not for the sister who stayed silent when Madison presented my research as hers in front of our mother. I swallowed the taste in my mouth. It wasn't bitterness. It was something colder, older. Madison clapped once, sharply. Welcome, everyone. I'm Madison Hayes, Director of Strategic Solutions here at Clearwell. I'll be overseeing this round. No one blinked. Of course they wouldn't. She sounded like